Ferrari is suffering tremendously on a technical level. The start of the 2025 Formula One season is bringing many disappointments, which in turn are creating unrest within the Maranello team. Ferrari team principal Frederic Vasseur has said that updates are important, but even more important is understanding how to make the car work at its best. That is precisely what is missing at Ferrari, which is unable to optimize the performance of the SF-25 single-seater for better or worse. The month of May will be very important for the historic Italian team. In fact, it will become clear whether it is worth continuing to push or instead focus exclusively on the next Formula One season. The upcoming campaign will see the introduction of the new set of rules and regulations. If the team is able to correct the car and raise its technical understanding to unlock hidden performance, things could change radically. Otherwise, the smart thing to do would be to accept yet another painful defeat, and instead invest time and money into the 2026 Formula One project. In the meantime, we can discuss the Ferrari SF-25 single-seater, based on what we have seen in the first 6 rounds of the championship. From that, we can hypothesize remedies and measures that the Italian team might decide to take, depending on the short-term scenarios. These days, while waiting for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, which is set to take place next weekend at the 4.909-kilometer Autodromo Internazionale Enzo A. Dino Ferrari, there is a lot of talk about a possible new rear suspension for Ferrari. The Maranello team is struggling quite a bit to hit the ride heights established in the design. Failing to use the correct distance to the reference plane ends up disrupting the entire search for the right setup. As a result, the window in which Ferrari can work to fine-tune the SF-25 is greatly narrowed. On more than one occasion, we have pointed out that the issue with the rear end is not exclusively linked to the stiffness of the suspension geometry, which has been criticized for being too soft and allowing excessive travel. The approach chosen by the Ferrari engineers and technicians allows for a higher degree of squat, a philosophy that the Italian car shares with the 2024 car that nearly won the Formula One championship. Nonetheless, it is also true that this configuration can carry with it less potential when it comes to the stiffer setups used by McLaren and Red Bull, especially now, when Ferrari's engineers and technicians have yet to get the 2025 car to perform as they want. In fact, the rear does not work well, and in general, there is always some understeer limiting performance. Raising the car narrows the aerodynamic operating window. Moreover, increasing the ride height leads to a loss of downforce, which in turn causes a lack of rotation. Many shadows hang over an SF-25 single-seater that is not well understood even by its own team. Some work may be done on the rear suspension, such as a different arrangement of the arms or internal elements. That said, at the moment Ferrari is studying whether or not these modifications will be made. Ferrari is therefore evaluating rear suspension changes. In the Spanish Grand Prix weekend, we will see the new front wing, while updates to the rear are unlikely, given the tight time frame and the difficulty of modifying suspension layouts. It should also be said that the aerodynamic problems of the SF-25 may very well stem from poor aeromechanical interaction, which is a condition that has been confirmed multiple times by those involved. Modern Formula One cars, which are true systems, are highly nonlinear and depend on a multitude of different variables. When even one of these components does not work, the whole car suffers a significant drop in performance. What's more, wing cars are extremely sensitive to ride height changes, which makes finding the right compromise especially difficult. For this reason, too, during the past winter, we ourselves had strong doubts about introducing a new suspension, be it front or rear. In our case, we were talking about the pull rod at the front, especially on this type of car, where the less you change, the better the result, since you don't have to deal with a long and complex learning curve to get the car working properly. As for the rear, all we can do now is wait, keeping in mind that a new rear suspension cannot be seen as a silver bullet, especially in a technical scenario where that component is not the only limiting factor. Regardless, changing the rear would open the door to a new learning curve that could be quite long. Returning to Europe marks a symbolic moment in the Formula One season, once viewed as the true beginning of the championship. Now, however, the 2025 campaign is already a quarter of the way through, and the paddock makes its way back to Italy, to the familiar setting of Imola in Emilia Romagna. For Ferrari, it's a return home, though not in the celebratory fashion it had envisioned at the start of this significant year. one defined by the arrival of Sir Lewis Hamilton. Hopes of delivering triumphs and pride to the passionate tifosi have so far gone largely unfulfilled. Instead of mounting an all-out attack for victories, the Maranello team has largely found itself in a defensive posture. There have been isolated moments of promise, particularly in the sprint races, where results have been salvaged, thanks largely to Charles Leclerc's relentless drive and ability to extract performance from a car that has yet to meet expectations. The Ferrari SF-25 car has proven extremely difficult to tame. While Charles Leclerc has occasionally pushed it beyond its apparent limits, Lewis Hamilton has, at times, appeared to struggle with the car to such an extent that it seemed to regress in performance, most notably during its recent outing at the Miami International Autodrome in Florida. The race at the Florida circuit highlighted a number of persistent weaknesses. Ferrari's showing in Shanghai had mirrored a now familiar pattern. A solid result in the sprint events, this time in Miami, aided more by some good strategic choices rather than by outright speed. But the positivity faded quickly once the qualifying session came around. Within just a few hours, the seven-time Formula One world champion went from a provisional third place to being knocked out in Q2. Team principal Frederic Vasseur later explained that the team had struggled significantly with the performance on fresh tire sets, particularly through the initial corners, where they were losing a disproportionate amount of time. This trend, difficulties in tight technical sections, has become something of a paradox for Ferrari, a team historically strong in cornering. Onboard footage from both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc revealed numerous steering corrections, clear signs of a car not properly balanced between front and rear. That instability becomes more pronounced on new tires, when grip levels are high and any imbalance is magnified. Frederic Vasseur pointed out that beyond the problematic opening corners, Ferrari's pace wasn't bad. In fact, Charles Leclerc was the fastest driver in the third sector on Saturday, even quicker than Max Verstappen, indicating that the early part of the lap was where the most time was being lost. Now, with a brief pause before the next round of the 2025 Formula One Championship, Ferrari has a critical stretch ahead. Another triple header looms, beginning with the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at the Imola circuit and followed by the Monaco Grand Prix at the Monte Carlo circuit and the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. In Italy, the team will introduce a limited set of aerodynamic updates as it begins a phased plan of development. The strategy is deliberate, balancing urgency with caution and ensuring that the upgrades align with both competitive needs and regulatory timing. The majority of significant improvements are being reserved for the Spanish Grand Prix, where a new technical directive regarding reduced front-wing flexibility will also come into force. Until then, it is a period of patience and precision, one where the Ferrari engineers and technicians must avoid other costly missteps.